Welcome back to How to Pose. Today we have the Marvel Legends Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. The theme for today's video is which essentially means we're only going to be doing swinging poses with this guy. Simply because we've already looked at this guy and they're on the exact same body. So the articulation is going to be pretty much the same. There are certain differences in terms of articulation, which we will go over, but it's pretty minor. Otherwise, they're entirely the same. But before we get into all that, let's talk about the aesthetic. Okay, so here are all of Hasbro's latest and greatest classic Spider-Man action figures. The only one I'm missing is the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends 3-pack version. That version is basically exactly the same as this guy, I believe, even the same head. It's just a different paint job. So that one has the blue instead of the black, and then a different spider logo and that sort of thing. But this is essentially everything that Hasbro is offering right now in terms of classic Spider-Man. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in terms of purely aesthetic, I think this guy is still my favorite. Although in terms of like articulation and just overall fun factor, I still think I'm gonna have to give it to this guy. So overall, I think out of the three, this guy's my favorite, but this guy is still really cool. Personally, I just really wasn't all that excited for a first appearance Spider-Man. Wasn't something that I ever thought that I really needed. In fact, the only reason I actually bought it was because he comes with gripping hands right here. And the reason that's important is because these guys on the left and right don't come with gripping hands, which is really annoying, Hasbro. I mean, come on. Only one of them? You're only gonna give one of them gripping hands? And it's like, it's not even the one that like most people are gonna want, I feel like, because it's not the classic red and blue. So essentially, I just kind of felt like strong-armed into buying this guy, because I would have never bought him had he not come with the gripping hands that I can use with these guys. But aside from that, he does look really good. I do dig the black and red, although not as much as the red and blue. Again, he is on the same body as this guy, so he is going to benefit from the good proportions and the nice articulation and all of that. Although we do have the web wings on this guy, which are very nice. He also does come with a set of open web wings. It's nice that they included the web wings, although I feel like they're a little bit finicky, and you know, they like to come out sometimes. They're pretty tight on there. Like, I didn't have too many issues with them like I've heard other people saying, but they're not exactly the strongest connection. So, you know, I just think it could have been done a lot better. I think we really would have benefited from some soft goods instead of just more PVC, because then we have, because of this, we have these like ugly holes on the arm. So if you're not into the web wings, screw you, I guess, because you're still gonna have this hole right here, which I guess isn't too big of a deal, but it's just not ideal. If we could have just gotten some cloth goods that like could have wrapped around the arm or something, I think everyone would have been happy with that. People who don't want to use the web wings wouldn't have to, and wouldn't have any random holes on the figure. So I just feel like that could have been done better. I really like the head sculpt. I think it's really striking. It definitely invokes that like Ditko era of Spider-Man. The spider on the chest logo I think might be just a little bit too big, but that doesn't really bother me at all. On the back, you've got the spider symbol there, which I did hear some people saying, oh, it's not accurate because in the comic it was blue. Yeah, I don't really think that that's correct, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, in that very same issue, Amazing Fantasy 15, he does in some other panels. So see, there you go, there's the web wing falling off. But in some panels he does actually have the red spider rather than the blue spider, because I'm pretty sure the blue spider was just supposed to show that he was in, you know, he had shadows casted onto him, and that's why the spider was blue. I don't think it was ever really supposed to be blue. But if you wanted blue, I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to do a custom job. And if you don't, it's not. So no harm there for you. But I'm not going to count it as an inaccuracy for the figure because I just don't really think that it is. The web lines on the figure are just about as clean as this guy and this guy. They all have like slight little problems here and there, but for the most part, it's clean, so that's okay. You know, especially on this one because this is actually a $30 figure instead of not being able to get this at retail at all, and this one being in a $60 to $70 two-pack. This one is $30, which I still think is too high. I think it's probably the best value for money out of all of these Spider-Man right here. That's going to be about it for aesthetic. There's not too much to talk about because, again, he is on the same body as the retro Spider-Man right here. So, again, it is just going to be paint differences here. Oh, one more thing, almost forgot. This figure has different shoulders than this one. They redid the shoulders for this retro Spider-Man. So here's the shoulder on this guy. You can kind of see it's a little bit more defined than this one right here. It's got a little bit more sculpting on it. The retro one is a little bit more round, but ultimately the retro one works a little bit better because this shoulder right here gets caught a little bit on the top when you're trying to move it upwards. So you might get some chewing right there on the plastic, but I don't think that's too big of an issue for me. If that's something that bothers you, it's something to keep in mind. Again, they did redo it on this one, so he does not have that issue, but this one does. But with all of that said, let's move on to the posing. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna be doing some swinging poses with this guy. So we are going to need the gripping hand for this one. So first we're gonna bring his arm inward like this, and then we're gonna want his head looking upward, straight upward. We're gonna bring his right leg up this way, and then slight bend, foot outward, kind of like that. And then the other leg is going to be out this way. So we're gonna turn the thigh inwards and then rotate this so that we can bend the knee right here a little bit. And then we're actually going to use the thigh cut. We're gonna swivel that this way so that we're looking kind of something like this a little bit. Then we're gonna swivel the torso a little bit at that diaphragm joint so that we can bring the arm even further in this way, adjust the head, and just kind of tweak it as you go. And then this back arm here, he's just gonna have that thrown back, just kind of like that. We should be looking something kind of like this. And now all that's left to do is put him on the flight stand. And like I showed you in the retro Spider-Man video, you can get the stand to clamp on to the butt right here. So you just have to slip it into there like that. And then he'll stay on the stand. And there he is in pose number 1. Our first swinging pose, looking absolutely spectacular. I really like the way that the light is reflecting off of this guy right now. He looks absolutely awesome. And you can get some pretty cool shots with the swinging. You know, it's pretty easy to get the webs off frame, so it looks like they're actually like clinging onto something. So yeah, this is a great pose for photos. And here's what the pose looks like at more of like a side angle. This would be really cool if you wanted to put him like in front of some buildings and get like a, you know, swinging through the city type of shot. I think that would be really cool. And here's one last angle for you guys. Yeah, he looks so great in this pose. Pretty simple, but definitely effective. And yeah, the look of this guy just really brings my mind right to those Steve Ditko drawings. So, but that's all I have to say about it. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so for this next pose, we are going to need the gripping hand on the right side and the thwipping hand on the left side. I kind of want to progressively, like as the poses go on, make him do something just a little bit crazier, just ramp it up a little bit every time. So we started off pretty simple, and now we're gonna ramp it up a little bit here with this one. So the first thing that we're gonna do, right, is we're gonna have him actually looking off to this way a little bit, and then because he's going to be web thwipping on this side, and then this side is going to go back, this arm right here, it's going to go back like this because he's going to be holding onto the web with this arm. And then we're going to crunch him forward as much as we can, right? And then this leg right here, we're going to actually bring this up. So we're going to make sure that the little opening where the joint is, we're moving that upward so that we can get his leg up really high. We're going to twist the torso a little bit to help that leg out. And then we're going to bend it slightly, and because we kind of want that to be like above his head. And then we're also going to make sure that he's looking up as far as possible, and then we're going to move the adjust the arm here to follow suit. We're going to need to move this joint inward, I think, to really be able to get the arm up as high as we want to here in this position. And then you should be looking something kind of like this. And then this leg, we're actually going to again move the thigh inward like this, and then the thigh swivel so that we can bring the leg back. And then the knee here, we're going to bend all the way in like this. And then we're just going to adjust this leg. We want it to look like it's kind of like behind his head. We really want him to be showing off his flexibility for this pose. And just adjust things as you go here. I think I'm going to move this arm down a little bit. But yeah, then you should be looking something kind of like this. And here he is in our second pose. And yeah, this looks really cool. I really love the way his leg is like almost behind his head. It really gives the sense that this is an acrobatic character and he is very flexible. We got a bunch of web action going on here. The webs that I'm using here, the one in the back is the Mafex Symbiote Spider-Man. It's from that figure. And then the one in the front is from the Mezco Spider-Man 2099. But I've said this before and I will say it again. If you need web accessories, if you do not have web accessories, that is okay. You can use just about anything as a web accessory here. So if you don't have any, either go to Etsy and buy some spaghetti webs from somebody on there, or make your own, because it's really not that hard. Please, please, please do not feel like you have to go and buy a bunch of figures for the express purpose of getting more web accessories, because that's going to be really expensive and you don't need to do it. The only reason I'm using web accessories from other figures here is because I just don't have any spaghetti webs on hand. Otherwise, I would use those, but this is just what I had laying around. So please, again, do not spend a whole bunch of money on new figures just to get new webs, because you don't need to. And here it is from a bit of a different angle. The web is kind of like getting some foreshortening here, and so is the arm. He looks kind of like a folded up pretzel here, like he's just really compact. And this would be a really great display pose too. This is something that I like to have a good amount of my Spider-Man doing on the shelf. Not all of them, but certain ones, just to kind of like spice up the composition of the shelf. But for me, it's pretty much my Spider-Man are either in swinging poses on the shelf or they're in crouching poses on the shelf, and there's really not too much of an in-between there for me. And here's one last angle for you guys where you can get a much better look at the front of the figure. This is going to be a really great angle for most shots. I think this is probably going to be one of the better angles, simply because you can see all of it and it's less like visual blah. This is one that you're definitely going to have to pick and choose your angles on, because it can get really muddy. But if you get it in the right shot, it does look really cool. But other than that, that's all I have to say. So let's move on to the next one. For this next one, I kind of want to have him like slingshotting himself through the air a little bit with his webs. And we're also going to take this opportunity to use the open web wings right here. Because I think we should. Although I am not a huge fan of these, they do look pretty cool, and you know, maybe we can get some usage out of them here. So okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do here is we want his arms to kind of like come out like this. Although, you know, for something like this, I really don't like how those hinges are red here and they're showing. I really feel like they should have been painted. But you know, I don't even mention those types of things in the aesthetic segment, because I know Hasbro will always cheap out on stuff like that. So whatever, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But what we're gonna do to hide that is we're going to rotate the shoulders in a bit, just to like get rid of that that hinge there. So it should look something kind of like that, and we're gonna do it on both sides, and then we should be looking something kind of like this. And then we're going to move the torso in all the way. We're gonna bring both of the legs upward like this, but then kind of like bend them in all the way, but not all the way, but a good amount, right? Kind of like that. And then we're gonna move the feet inward as well. So we should be looking something like this. And then we're gonna move the head forwards so that he can see where he's launching himself to. And I think I'm gonna want to bring these arms just in a little bit. You know, you can always tweak things as you go. Just remember that, you know, you don't have to do exactly what I do. And, you know, even when I'm doing this, like, I kind of have a general idea sometimes about what I want to do. But a lot of times I'm just kind of playing around with stuff and seeing what stuff looks like. So a little bit of insight, right? When I do these videos, I just kind of like play around with a pose before I film that segment, right? So I'll play around and kind of see what I want to do. And then I'll film the showcase segment, and then I'll film that how-to segment. So I don't even really know what I want to do going into these videos. It's just kind of like a fun time for me to sit around and play with these guys. And then the next thing that we're gonna do, and the last thing actually, is we're gonna put on these web accessories right here. And for this, you can see that hole right there. We're just gonna kind of like try and plug it in as best we can. You might have to move some stuff around and just kind of like see if you can get it in. And here we are with the third pose. This one's kind of cool. He's kind of like slingshotting himself a little bit, maybe, or kind of something like that. And I thought this would be the perfect one to use the web wings for. But as it turns out, there is no perfect pose to use these web wings with, because they absolutely are horrendous. I didn't really mess with them too much before filming this video, but oh my god, was it a horrible time getting those web wings to cooperate with me. Pro tip, you really want to pose him up first and then put the web wings on. Any way you do it, it's gonna be difficult, but don't try to put the web wings on first and then pose him, because you're just gonna get frustrated. And here he is from below. This looks even better. You can see the foreshortening in the legs there, and the fact that we're kind of like looking up at him makes the pose just a little bit more dynamic, or at least feel a little bit more dynamic. And you can see the web wings on full display there, although I will not be using those web wings ever again. Not in this video and not IRL. They are too hard to work with, so this is the last time you'll be seeing them. And here he is from kind of like a side angle, and this looks really cool too. I think this pose would probably work a little bit better if you had matching web effects, but again, this is just what I had on hand. So that's what I'm gonna use. But with all that said about this one, let's move on to the next one. All right, for this last pose, I really want to get this guy to flex. So it's gonna be a pretty extreme position. Like, I'm talking about, I want to get this guy into like the type of pose that would make Tom Holland feel bad about himself. You feel me? But all jokes aside, we are gonna need both gripping hands for this pose. Now, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna bring both of the arms forward, because both hands are going to be gripping on the web together like this. And then we're going to crunch him forward again. But this time, we're actually going to, at the diaphragm right here, we're going to rotate this whole mechanism to the side. And then we want him looking forward. Bring his arms up maybe just a little bit more like that. That looks good. And then we can move his left leg up like this, right? Bend it at the knee slightly. But then the foot, I actually want to move backwards, kind of like this. Playing with the position of the foot can really give the pose a new life and just a different feel, right? So like the other leg, we're going to actually move in like this. And this foot, we're actually going to move inward. So now we have sort of like this asymmetry here, and I think it just looks really striking. And for certain poses, I think it just works out really well. And then the head, I think I'm gonna turn a little bit this way, move the arms a little bit to follow suit, and then the web's gonna be kind of going off to the side of his face a little bit so we can still see it. But it should look something like this. Here it is, the fourth and final pose. And yeah, this looks really, really cool. It kind of reminds me of that one shot from the PS4 Spider-Man game. I'll try to find an image of it and I'll put it up on the screen if I can find one. But yeah, that's what it's giving me right now, and it looks really cool. And here it is from the side here. You can see his leg is well above his head there, or rather like just kind of like at it from this angle. But in real life, it actually is well above his head. But yeah, that's pretty sick. You're again gonna have to really pick and choose your angles with this one, because you do have his body in a pretty extreme position. So at certain angles, it can kind of look like stuff really isn't where it should be. So just choose your angles wisely with these kinds of poses. And there's one last angle for you guys, and this one looks really, really good. This is definitely the most dynamic pose we've done. I mean, we pretty much just completely dislocated his entire lower half. But I mean, that's what makes Spider-Man so great, is that you can just have so much fun with what you want to do and just really play around with it and get him into some really wacky looking positions, and it still works because that's what Spider-Man does. And so I think a lot of you are really gonna have a fun time with this figure, and yeah, the possibilities are pretty much endless. So but yeah, that's about all I have to say about it though. Alright, so that's going to be about it for this video on the Marvel Legends Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. I really do like this figure. It's grown on me. I really dig the look of it. I didn't think that I would like it nearly as much as I do, simply because I wasn't even originally intending on buying it. Although I don't appreciate being strong-armed into buying this guy, because it's the only way to get the gripping hands. Of course we want the gripping hands, Hasbro. It's a Spider-Man figure. Just include them with every Spider-Man figure. I know you can afford to do it. I don't understand why certain figures come with a bunch of accessories and other figures come with next to none. It doesn't make any sense. At the same price point, this guy comes with the gripping hands, the wall crawlers, and the thwippers, and the fists, for the same price as the Future Foundation Spider-Man that comes with none of that. And this is a new body, and the Future Foundation's is not. So it doesn't make any sense. And it is clear to me that Hasbro is just skimping out, and they don't actually care about the fans. Now, granted, the people representing Hasbro, i.e. Dwight, and the other two guys whose names I can't remember, those guys are great, and they obviously do really care about the fans and the community and collecting in general. So I'm not putting the blame on those guys, so please don't go and attack those guys because they don't deserve it. It's Hasbro as a company that doesn't care. And I just don't understand how we can get all the accessories we need with this guy, but not with every other Spider-Man for the exact same price. It's just mind-boggling. But these are just the things that have been bouncing around my head lately in regards to Hasbro. I'll probably do a discussion video on it. But with all that said, if you liked the video, please leave a like. It really does help me out. I really do hope y'all enjoyed the video. Leave a comment about what you want to see next. I'm willing and open to try new lines if that's what you guys want to see. And if you want to see more of things that I've already done videos on, I'm more than happy to do that as well. This is kind of like a really new genre for the action figure community. I know other people have been doing it. I'm not the first one. But it is pretty new, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys could help me out a little bit and just let me know what you want to see. But aside from that, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.